Alrighty, thank you all so much for joining us for Restaurant Finance webinar. Today we're going to be discussing budgeting. If you're not already familiar with us, which you probably are, as we are your restaurants accountants, we've been specialized in this industry in accounting for hospitality for over 30 years. And in that time, we've learned that when we're able to put our knowledge in the hands of our clients and in the hands of their staff as well, that they're able to improve their restaurants and also grow their careers, which is why we've been doing this free webinar series. If you have anybody in your life, a colleague or a friend who you think could use this information, please let us know. We'd love to send them the link to this recording and invite them to future webinar sessions. I'd also like to point out that we have another webinar coming up on September 17th. We're going to be discussing the new trunk legislation. I will drop a link to that in the chat shortly. But without further ado, let's begin with the agenda today. We're going to be first going over some introductions. Then we're going to be talking about the information that you need to gather for a budget. And then Dimitri will be walking us through the budget template that he's designed just for you guys. And we'll be sending that out. I've already sent it out via email, but we'll also send it out again after the course, an Excel that you can use to create your own template, or sorry, you can use to create your own budget for your restaurant. Then we're going to be speaking about reforecasting, and we'll dive a little bit into budget expert level services that we can provide at Paperchase. And then finally, we will wrap up with a Q&A. If you do have any questions during the session, if they're absolutely burning, you can feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, if you could please hold them until the Q&A, we'd be happy to answer them. We'll answer any questions that you have about restaurant finance during that time. So without further ado, I'd like to kick it off to our two hosts today.
Thank you, Caroline. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the call. My name is Dimitri Khrushchev. If you happen to notice an accent during this webinar, I grew up in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And if you're wondering why a South African would be called Dimitri, it's because I'm originally from Bulgaria and moved to South Africa at a young age. I moved to America on a tennis scholarship, and I studied finance and economics at Cal Poly here in California. Upon graduating, I started my career in finance in an equity research analyst role, and my hospitality finance career began about 6 years ago at Triple Enterprises, which is now a Paperchase subsidiary, which was acquired about 2 years ago. And we work there in corporate finance capacities, helping clients with M&A advisory, fundraising advisory, and fractional CFO and FP&A services. We also helped with board level presentations, investor materials, helping clients through the capital raising process, whether that's debt or equity. And a big part of that is strategic planning, and recurring budgeting and reforecasting throughout the year to help guide restaurateurs, founders, and management teams. I'll head it over to Tushar for his intro. Tushar, you're on mute.
Technology got me there. Thanks, Dimitri. I've got 20 years finance experience. I've worked around the globe, both in finance and debt raising. I joined Paperchase 3 years ago, managing and advising a portfolio of clients. Previously, I've worked in other businesses where we've had large infrastructure projects, where we had to plan and budget in order to keep the project on track and also to control the costs. We could move to the next slide. Let me kick it off and sort of explain why you would want to budget and have a budget. The budget gives you a forward-looking plan and some direction. It can also provide targets for your team. But what it importantly does is align your team with your business goals and strategy. meaning that you're all moving in the right direction to help the business grow and increase profitability. And also, if you design a remuneration package around that, it can really be a performance driver for your team. Moving to bullet 3, the opportunities. It helps you to sort of really understand the key drivers of your business, identify areas where you're deviating from your plan. It helps you identify areas where you need to take corrective action and focus on sort of redressing costs or increasing revenue. And it will also help you manage the expectation of any potential investors you may have. Also on the cash side, because cash is the most important thing in a business, it helps you identify when you have surplus funds, whether you can expand, whether you should plan CapEx based on your cash flow. I'll hand over to Dimitri to start running through a template now of a budget model that he has.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Tushar. Okay, so we've created a simple version of a budget template, which you can use for an individual location. This can be a great tool to go over with the relevant management team at your particular location, and to give you a brief understanding of how we look at budgeting, relatively detailed on the sales level, with some summary level cost assumptions that we will go over shortly. But I'm going to walk you through the template tab by tab. This will all be recorded so that you can always refer back to it. But just walking through the cover page, which is the table of contents, and really your home base to come back to and just refresh any type of information that you need. So in here we have our guide and our column over here. So this is where you can understand where I'm going to put my inputs, so my assumption inputs, and where I'm going to put in my actuals from my financial reporting. We're going to go down here to the formatting guideline. So everything in blue text is inputs or hard-coded figures, so you can make edits in the blue text. So we also have a formatting key here for anything in black will be a formula on the same sheet. So that means that the formula is on the same sheet, and you can reference the cells so that you understand where the formulas are coming from. And green text means that you're pulling data in from another sheet. So looking at here, everything is linkable. So you can click through into the reporting tab. And here we wanted to show some capabilities that we do have beyond this template. And we added some useful resources at Paperchase so that you can take full advantage of certain blog posts, articles, and monthly newsletters about the market. We have a wealth of experience from our founding team, our CEOs, our consultants at Paperchase, our account managers as well. And we really encourage people to check in here every 2 weeks or every month for any new information. And of course, we have Paperchase newsletters that go out to our client base. Looking at what we're going to focus on today is really looking at the top line sales metrics, at sales traffic. So this is cover traffic, and average check price, basic sales mix between food and beverage sales. And then we're going to look at driving our model with order modes. So dine in, takeout, delivery, and looking at day parts as well. So we're going to focus on lunch and dinner today in this simple template. But there are other ways you can budget, and that we have done in the past if there are certain revenue centers that are being modified in a restaurant. And then some key outputs will be always AUVs. We have capabilities at Paperchase where we also help on menu engineering and PMix budgeting, but that's mainly just to understand your food cost, your beverage cost optimization. And we also work with correlations for sales drivers, where we try help you understand your top of funnel. For today, we're going to go over some simple assumptions over here. And then we finally have some labor analysis that we also do in capabilities, where we try also do more unit economics based on your labor budgeting. For today's purposes, we have kept it simple. So we're going to go to the assumptions tab real quick and walk you through here. This is where you're going to have, as it stated, your core assumptions, and where you should really just keep coming back to as you build out your budget. So looking at this tab, you can always again click back to cover if you want to come back, and then you can always click back to assumptions to come straight back into the tab. We've set it up so that you have some key outputs as you make changes to your targets. When budgeting, depending who your audience is, you always want to perhaps set some kind of target to your management team. And you can also create a different scenario in case you wanted to have a more downside risk scenario, where you want to see how much cash you'll end up in a downward scenario. But here we've had just a quick sales review trend. Where's my EBITDA target going to be for 2025? How much cash did I start with? How much am I going to end with? So just keeping focus on the macro topics as you build out your assumptions. I'll walk you through the revenue drivers. So using this as a case sample, we wanted to look at a location where we want to drive a little bit of improvement in our lunch day part and our takeout day part. And we wanted to add some context on, okay, how do we achieve this type of growth? We're going to increase our marketing costs or improve our loyalty program to generate these extra revenue metrics. And then we have some price related increases due to inflation. So kind of a standard menu price increase at the beginning of 2025. And then we have average check price growth trigger. So this adds a little bit more of a server goal to upsell customers, or to, again, as you offering more takeout, or maybe you have some different specials where you want to improve your average check price. Table turn capability will help you understand your certain capacity and how many table turns you can achieve at high peak times. So we wanted to set this little metric in here so that when you do go to the next sales review tab, you can look at all your capabilities across lunch, dinner, and days of week as well, so that you have that at top of mind when you're doing your sales review. So finally, we had a little section in here in revenue drivers to complete our 2024. So when we are budgeting, there's always going to be 3 to 5, 6 periods. We quite relatively earlier in the budgeting process now. We do recommend clients start thinking about it towards end of September and all throughout October. So you do have about 3 periods to fill out your 2024. You can use your prior year assumption or current trends. In this case, we've just used a -5 growth rate based on relatively flat to negative same-store sales metrics throughout this year. So we just wanted to be a conservative view heading into the end of year. Moving down to cost drivers, we've added pretty simple metrics in here so that you can just plug and play your food cost and your beverage cost. We do recommend you pull your menu at the end of each year and create a theoretical food cost for your recipes, and so that you have a basis to track them every quarter or every 6 months, and understand where there could be some items that are maybe not priced correctly, or something that you may not be as familiar with heading into a budgeting plan. Looking at labor, again, we've used simple cost assumptions in here for front of house, back of house. You can confirm your management team down below here with detail, or you can just drop in your whole management number in terms of your growth plan. And then we have operating expenses, which is its own deep dive tab, which we've linked over here, which I'll get to next. And then we have occupancy and lease assumptions. We have management fees. We have taxes as an assumption, CapEx reserve as a percentage of sales, but you can also override this with manual inputs. And then finally, we have a working capital line, which can be a manual custom input based on, any outstanding working capital items, such as, accounts payable, credit card bills, or accounts receivable as well from events and things that you want to forecast month by month as you head into 2025. So again, assumptions tab is really where you're going to keep coming back and forth. A quick skip to, you can always go to the P&L quick view to just get a quick view as you start the file of, a classic variance analysis here of 2024 versus 2025. What am I actually growing in terms of my guest count, my average check price, and my sales? That's really going to dictate a lot of your targets as you upload your budget into your ERP system or your accounting system to track as the weeks go on in the year. Gross profit we have over here. So everything goes down straight to a quick EBITDA summary and with some margin analysis that you can always just quickly reference and add some notes for yourself as you go. So let's dig into some of the details of the file. So here we have the sales review tab, which is really breaking out the top line into the order modes and the day parts. So here we have our buttons that group up the tab for easier inputs. So here we have the 1 and the 2 up in the top left corner, right in the top left corner. At the moment, we have everything grouped using the number 1 button. And then as we work through the tab, you can expand each section with this little plus sign to the left. So we have a sales summary up here. We have an order mode mix, average weekly figures. And then in this blue section over here, you can expand the plus sign in the blue section. And here I've opened up my dine-in lunch for P1 in 2023. And we have this all the way through your actuals. You can always just input over P7 and P8 in here. And you can input everything in the blue text in here. So here you're going to put in your actual cover counts for all of Monday in P1 so that it's very easy for you to input. It'll take some time bringing the data in from your EPOS into here, but this will really help you get a nice summary of your last 18 months of actuals into your modeling process so that you do get your table turns by day part, by order mode. And then in here, you can finally put in your total net sales for P1 so that you can just understand the average check price for this particular period. Again, here we have dine-in dinner. So you just input all of those. And then finally here we have the table turns outputs in here so that you can understand, okay, these are my table turns on the day of week based on my cover counts. And then again, this is all automated for you. If you prefer capacity or utilization. We have the percent you have been during that day on that day part. And then we also encourage you to fill out your takeout and delivery order modes. So here you can fill those out. Again, I'm just going down methodically, go down vertically in the file so that you just fill out each section correctly. Finally, again, you can click the number 1 button. Everything will collapse. I'm zoomed in pretty high right now so that you can just see. But if I zoom out, you can see it's all organized very neatly when you click the number 1 button. Open up the sales summary here, again, plus sign, and you will be able to see a headline view of your net sales, your guest count, your average check price. And then as you head into 2024, you're going to see your growth metrics neatly organized throughout 2024. And then you're going to see your remainder assumption for your periods in 2024 on what we've set them at. Over here, again, you can look at, we have order mode. So you're going to have your day parts. You're basically summarizing the relevant information in here so that you have it all in one place that you can quickly reference it when you do go to the P&L tab. Finally, I have some average weekly figures, so you can look at your seasonality despite your fiscal calendar. And then we have an order mode mix where we've just broken everything out by cover count and also average check price. So again, let's use our logic over here, number 1 button. And then if we move all the way to the right, we start heading into our budget section. So left to right will always be, we've added all the sections in light blue for the budget. So as we open this up, you can review, okay, all the assumptions that I've added in the assumptions tab are flowing through to about a 10% net sales increase, about a 5.5 to 6% guest count increase, and we've modeled about a 5% average check price increase. That's all come from changing these more underlying sales growth tactics that we're trying to achieve. Again, growing lunch by 25% doesn't mean we're going to grow sales by 25%. It just means that we wanted to set a target over here for the lunch day part, and we can understand how that's flowing through over here as you go through your sales review tab. Moving further to the right, you will then get your annual view from 2023 to 2025 so that you get a good understanding of what's happened over the last 24 months in terms of the model. And again, you'll have that all the way down into your day parts, your order modes, and most importantly, your guest traffic as well, your cover count traffic in here. Average weekly figures as well. And then we do have a quarterly section as well further to the right if you did want to look at it by quarter, to revisit it at the end of every quarter. If you do need to change any assumptions, you can always reuse this template and call it reforecast and reuse it. So let's just collapse this again. And now we're going to go to, again, we've also added an easy to follow link over here. So go to sales actual inputs, which means that it'll take you straight to where you need to go in terms of inputting your guest count and your net sales. Just to practice again, back to cover, go straight back. And now we can look at, okay, let's just complete our OPEX budget. So here we have our operating expenses. Again, we have a quick reference to our square footage, our seat counts. You can input your full-time employees, how many tables you have, and then we have some basic sales outputs over here. In our operating expense section, we encourage you to fill out about as far as you can go back to 2023 on your restaurant site's location, so that you can get a good understanding of all your expense trends. Everything here again is grouped in the 1 or 2 methodology that I've mentioned. So each section, this is our paper chase chart of accounts. You can go in and review each section in more detail for yourself, and just take the time to review, what's a variable cost to me, what's my minimum despite it being a variable cost. So you can input your assumptions in here in the blue text. Again, we filled everything out left to right, and then we have a roll forward here on whatever that assumption is heading into 2024. We used our marketing example earlier. So in marketing over here, we'll open up marketing. And here we wanted to add in a certain amount heading into 2024 and 2025. And you can input your actual amounts in here to keep it simple. We've added into P11 to P12 to start kicking off this budget into 2025. Again, collapsing that, you will again have this view into the totals for 2024 year to date, 2024 last 12 months, so that we're looking back to 12 periods of data. And then we have an average period amount in here so that you can review certain cost trends. Have I been spending more than my 2024 year to date in my last 12 months? To the right, we have some added reference in case, in terms of per square feet or per seat costs, so that you can kind of have a benchmark if you ever needed to on what's costing me more than perhaps other restaurants in your area. Okay, so again, all the tabs work vertically, so you can update all your actuals vertically over here. We also have the lease, which will be inputted left to right again, where you can come in and input your assumptions through the end of year. And then we have our growth rate heading into 2025. Or if anything has changed in here, you can put in your assumptions. Again, we can click back to cover. Now let's move to the P&L and cash flow summary. So this is a quick summary to review all the sales that we've worked on. So we have our average weekly figures for easy to see seasonality, our order modes, our net sales, our guest count, average check price, and then we have our order mode straight down below and our day parts. So it's all in one place, easy to review your trends across the year and heading into 2025, as we can see here. Then we move into the food and sales, the food sales mix, the beverage sales mix that we've set in terms of taking it from the total sales down into a sales mix, so that we can calculate our cost assumptions for food cost and beverage cost. Here we have the sales growth, which can be shown right down below. And moving now to our inputs for cost assumptions and actuals. So your first place to enter in your cost assumptions will be your food cost, your beverage cost. And again, here we've gone back to 2024 for you to do this, so that you can go down vertically and put in your labor costs as well, your management, your labor taxes, insurance, benefits, all of that would go in here. Your OPEX, here is a good example to show you. The green means it's coming from the OPEX tab. So your operating expenses would come from that separate tab. Occupancy as well comes from the OpEx tab. And then here we have depreciation, which you can input from your actuals. We've added a row for interest, which you can input in your actuals. Your management fees can come either from the assumption, so it really should be relatively a fixed measure from what you have in terms of your percentage of sales or whatever agreement you have. For that, it might be 0, but we've added that in here. And then we have our free cash flow items where you can input as well. So we've added a relatively simple view here. Normally, when we do our detailed budgeting assumptions, we do create a 3-statement model so that you do have to actually build out your cash flow statement heading into 2025 based on your balance sheet. But we've used the core cash flow items in the restaurant industry are really working capital, debt principal payments, and your CapEx reserve. If you did need to add any additional balance sheet items that you know might be coming, we recommend you just add them into the working capital line item, or you can even insert a row and it will all flow through into the free cash flow row over here. So free cash flow is a really important measure to consider as you're budgeting. So we've added an easy to review free cash flow row in here, and we have our beginning cash balance, what's it going to net increase, decrease by, and our ending cash balance. So again, by the end of 2025, based on all the assumptions that you've inputted, you can have a good view of, okay, how much cash am I actually going to project to end up with if I achieve these targets. Again, everything goes left to right to get you to the annual stage. So if you ever want to keep working back and forth in the file, skip to the right to look at the annual effect of everything, particularly your top line sales, looking at your margin improvements consistently throughout the file, labor margin improvements in here. Here we have the gross profit margin improvement. This has largely been driven by the increase in average check price, spend, and extra menu price increase. Down to EBITDA margin, down to net income margin, and then free cash flow as well. Earlier, we mentioned some correlations to sales drivers, and here we have customer loyalty stats. So we've added a simple thing to get you thinking on maybe something to budget heading into next year. How many new customers did I generate in a particular period? How many returning customers, and how many customers are uncategorized, or I maybe need to start improving my categorization of customers to start building that top of sales funnel to better understand my revenue. At the end of the day, revenue is the most important element of budgeting out your following year, not just saying, I want to grow by 5%. How are you going to grow by 5% is a more important question to ask yourself. Okay, moving back to cover, and then finally we can go to the quick view, just as a quick refresh, where we have an easy to view summary on margin analysis as well. So you can review what are my margin targets for the year, and then you will come back to your budget as P1, P2, P3 close, and you can review that variance analysis. Here we have EBITDA flow through, which we find is an important measure that is not quite EBITDA margin, but how much sales am I generating compared to 2024, but how much EBITDA did I get from that? So we want to show that flow through, which then pretty much leads to free cash if you add extra lines in here. But this is how much extra cash I'm going to generate from my net sales improvement before my free cash flow items. So through all those revenue growths and the marketing budget, we are targeting 31% flow through in terms of EBITDA. We've added a market comps tab for you here, which we do update quarterly. And we do have a macro newsletter that we will be releasing both for the UK and the US for public market trends, where we do actually drill down into public market companies and really try understand what is the macro environment for particular sectors in the restaurant industry. So here we have QSR, fine dining, casual, and fast casual, and mid-scale. And we can see that generally there has been same-store sales pressure in 2024. So again, this is all going to be downloadable for you. It is a relatively simple budget, but we wanted to keep it simple for you so that you do get some level of detail in terms of revenue forecasting, and then having the ability to really input all your cost assumptions, particularly on the OPEX side, all the way back to 2023 to understand those trends. But I'll hand it over to Tushar for a quick recap.
Thanks, Dimitri. There's a lot of information that needs to be sort of gathered and collected to build out your budget assumptions. Most of the assumptions are obviously what you believe your costs, revenue, market, etc. will be and look like going forward. A good starting point, I think, is the market segment analysis, the bottom right here. And what we're really saying there is what external factors could potentially affect your business. Will a new restaurant be opening down the road, which could affect your sales? What are the macroeconomic environment? A good one for the UK are business rates. Currently, hospitality is enjoying a 75% discount on business rates. That is going to go away come 2025 April, unless the government sort of puts in some sort of new scheme. So that will obviously impact your budget for 2025. Also, as Dimitri sort of said, we've got a wealth of sort of industry data, trend analysis on our website, and we do put out periodic reports that you can all use to sort of build out your sort of macroeconomic assumptions in relation to your budget. Being a bit more granular and then looking at specifics for individual establishments, the revenue there, top left, what do you need to consider? Temporary, permanent capacity. We've got clients who during the summer are able to use the outside space and can add extra capacity by adding extra rows of seats. So that obviously will drive your sales, your covers, essentially. Are there ways to diversify your business stream? We've got other clients who have sort of gone on the YouTube bandwagon and are producing sort of YouTube videos, and it's not a huge income source for them, but it sort of serves two purposes: marketing and also a small revenue increase for their business. The volume side of things, the cover side of things, how do you go about increasing your covers? What can you do? Dimitri mentioned marketing spend and sort of linking and upping your marketing spend to drive sales. But it's always quite difficult to link, direct sort of expenditure from marketing to direct increasing sales. And then average spend. How do you go about increasing your average spend? How do you gather that information? People look at pushing specials within the restaurant, which have higher GP margins, looking at more profitable lines, upselling, all things that you need to consider when trying to build out all your revenue assumptions. Then the cost side of things, what are your target cost of goods sold? Do you have target GPs? Do you need to review your menu in order to sort of increase potential prices or sort of adjust your purchases? Labor is a big cost within your P&L. Planning staff to cover the sales that you're expecting. You don't want to end up with too many staff or too little staff, which can have both issues for you. On the OpEx sort of side of things, your operating expenses, identifying costs that will increase with sales. So, for example, credit card fees. If your sales start to increase, your credit card fees will increase. On the reverse of that, a sort of fixed type costs, which don't change with sales increases. And then finally, the premise costs, as I've sort of already mentioned, the big one for the UK market essentially is the rates and the discount coming off for next year. But also, do you have a lease rent adjustments coming up? They're normally every 5 to 7 years in the UK. You need to build that into your assumptions for any budgeting if that is hitting your budgeting period. And then finally, on the cash flow side of things, your budget can really help you plan your CapEx expenditure, the quantum, whether you should be looking to expand. Also on the debt side of things, can you put through your debt servicing costs? Should you be looking to increase debt if you've got surplus cash to sort of fund your CapEx or, expand? Also, old liabilities that could hit, during the COVID period, a lot of payment plans were put in place. They've should have majority rolled off. I know VAT was on a payment plan, which, some people are still getting those payment plans from HMRC, but they're winding those down. But also bounce back loans, those repayments are coming up and are still there on most people's balance sheets. We move to the next slide. What we generally see is your budget stays fixed for the life of the year that you're budgeting for. And what people normally do is get to an end of a quarter and then reassess that budget, which then, rather than change the original budget, is called a reforecast. So in an ideal business, you'd be looking every quarter. Obviously, this is very time consuming and probably requires sort of a finance team to help. But you'd look, end of quarter one, my actuals for the first quarter turned out as X. My budget was Y. What are the variances? Any major deviations? And we would normally say plus or minus 10% for the variance analysis if you need to reforecast. Any major variances, you'd look to sort of reforecast, and then you'd move forward with having an actual budget for a year and then a reforecast. And your reforecast would probably incorporate 3 months worth of actual and 9 months worth of reforecast. And then when you roll that forward to quarter two, you'd have 6 months worth of actuals, 6 months worth of forecast, with your budget staying the same and your actuals being your actuals. What this allows you to do is, have a much more accurate picture of where your business will turn out going into the year end. We also, on the reporting side, can help you by tracking the performance. So our reports are set up where we can sort of have your actuals versus your budget versus your reforecast, and we can track that to help you sort of look month on month how you're doing and how you're performing versus the budget, and also if you have a reforecast. I'll hand over to Dimitri to take us through a more advanced budgeting options and how Paperchase can help you through, more complex scenarios.
Great. Thank you, Tushar. So we've gone over our budget template that is relatively high level on a summary basis. But we do roll up individual location budgets into the multi-location consolidated budget with also the corporate or the holdco or wherever you're keeping your whole management team costs to really provide a full view budget and balance sheet and cash flow plan heading into 2025 and further on as well. We have in our budgets always an upside case, a downside case, and a base case so that it's easy to toggle into a downside case scenario to understand, okay, what is the risk to my cash balance heading into 2025? We also incorporate investor waterfall distributions. What this means is if you have got investors that have various structures of accelerated dividends or payback through a various hurdle or metric to then switch to a different hurdle or metric in a phase 2, we do create those custom waterfalls across various scenarios. We've worked with a lot of clients in New York, London, Dubai, all over America. It's quite a common structure in the UK as well at kind of the private equity level. Detailed budgets in terms of we drill down even further into the unit economics, and I'll share an example shortly, just on a demo. But we do also look closely at day part profitability, really more detailed view into the labor budget, and really drilling down into menu engineering and food cost tracking. But let me just give you a quick sample over here. And I'll go over a detailed model that we use for new projects. So if a client is wanting to open a new project, the budget is really important to have a clean file that helps you provide a whole summary to different stakeholders while still being useful enough to then use again for either reforecast or just to track what's going on with my project. So looking at, this is our new opening detailed financial model package where we look at, all the intro level details of the restaurant. We have all of the different monthly P&Ls, dashboards in here where we can look through exactly what's going on in terms of our sales plan for a new location. It can also be done for an existing location. And here we have our operating profit EBITDA, and what our clients like to focus on is also project payback. So when am I actually going to, provide payback to my investors, and at what level of return based on a particular structure that's been set. And all the assumptions that we have in this file are relatively detailed to fill in, but once we do that work with you, it's really a great tool to help provide more clarity as you open new locations. Here we have all the order mode mixes, food and beverage, dinner, lunch, quick summary of the average daily, a visual view of the sales plan and the growth plan, and then some easy to follow cash flow planning over here on, okay, when am I actually going to start paying back my investors at a certain point in time. We have really useful one-pager documents. So when you are looking at a new site or you want to underwrite a new site, we have created a clean one-pager to be able to benchmark to something similar within your location base or something local in the market where we can understand the cohorts. But in here, all the core metrics help provide an investor level summary in terms of the core P&L assumptions, the core statistics, so sales per square feet, sales per seat, sales per staff even, free cash flow, and then the return on the equity invested, and then the return on your project cost. And what our clients like to use in this as well is our project summary detail. So again, let me just go back to our cover page, and we have a whole capital expenses section where we create just a clean phase of entry for you. So you have an original budget. If you have any design changes during planning, then you have what we call a locked budget. And then we have, with our accounting team, we will help you track any statements you get from contractors or suppliers to help understand, okay, what was my revised budget by, when you even 50% to 75% of the way into the project. And then we will track the spending so that you have a good view of what went on in terms of my capital expenses for a new location. Just to show more functionality in this model, we have a menu view where you can review items. Your theoretical food costs would come in here, and you would understand your, again, very similar to a lot of our very detailed weekly analytics at Paperchase. But here you will be able to really visually map out your top performers and what you need to focus on. Most of you, I'm sure, are operators or really focused on this, but it's a nice tool to just show, okay, what do I really need to focus on with my team heading into a new site or an existing site to improve upon. Everything rolls into all the standard Paperchase P&Ls with various timelines. So we have a lot of functionality in this, and we have also the capability of adding in various sources and uses in terms of equity, debt financing, and investor structuring as well. So, yeah, feel free to always get in touch about all the other detailed capabilities we have. We're always happy to hop on a demo call with you.
Thank you so much, Dimitri and Tushar, for that presentation. We'll now open it up for any questions that the audience has.
Caroline, just maybe show the last slide real quick.
Yes.
I can go over that.
Perfect.
Thank you. And then just to close off quickly, so yeah, always feel free to get in touch. Also, if you have questions on the budgeting template, feel free to email me. But generally our FP&A services start at about 2,000, either for a project or on a recurring monthly basis. And we can provide those scope of services to you as well if you feel free to email us. But really we have all the way down from the basic level of creating your budget model templates for your individual locations and your total company. And then we also have the capability to customize it to match your business in a more bespoke model. If you have various different lines or if focus on event business, for all different types of concepts we've worked with. We've even worked with e-commerce brands, hospitality as well. So feel free to email us and set up an intro call to learn more.
Thanks so much. Awesome. If you have any questions, please go ahead and either raise your hand and I will unmute you, or you can drop them in the Q&A chat and we'll answer them live as well there. It can be anything about what we've gone over today, anything that we didn't cover today, or anything related to restaurants and finance that you have on your mind. Please don't be shy. Okay, I see a question over here. What is something to look out for when you are creating your budget? Anything to be wary of? It's coming from one of our anonymous attendees. Did you hear that question?
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to sort of capture everything in the budget. And that's why I think it's advisable to do a reforecast. I mean, not when you're setting up a budget, normally the timing is sort of you're looking at it in October for the following January. When you set the budget up, do you know every single sort of thing that's going to happen? Probably not. Um, that's why we sort of suggest that reforecasting every quarter sort of updates that budget and sort of brings in variables that you didn't know that may have changed. For example, cost increases or changes in legislation that put more sort of burden on a company and so on, or revenue upticks if you've gone into a new line that you weren't expecting to go in a certain direction and suddenly you start doing a lot more event business, for example. It can really sort of boost. And that's why we're saying that, a quarterly reforecast will help you monitor that and track it and get you to a much more accurate picture by year end.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we're going to be sending out the first budgeting template that we went over in the course today out via email, along with the recording. If you have any friends, any colleagues that could use this, please feel free to pass it along to them. If they want to sign up for future courses, just go ahead and connect us via email, and we'll make sure to put them on our mailing list. And if you are interested in any of our FP&A or CFO services, including budgeting, please reach out, respond to that email, and we can chat further. And I truly appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.